I'm getting married in 2 weeks and I am totally screwed. I discovered what my fiancé really does for a living 3 hours ago, and now I'm sitting in my car outside our apartment, hands shaking so badly I can barely type this. For 2 years, I thought Veronica worked as a financial consultant for high-net-worth clients. She had the wardrobe, the business cards, the LinkedIn profile. She'd leave for client dinners in designer dresses and come home talking about portfolio diversification. I never questioned it. Why would I? The money was real. She paid half our rent on a luxury apartment, bought me a Rolex for my birthday, and already put down $30,000 for our wedding. Everything unraveled because of a simple mistake. Veronica left her laptop open while she showered. I wasn't snooping. I just needed to check the weather. But her email was open to a message that made my blood freeze. Tomorrow's session is confirmed. Same rules as always. No marks above the neckline, no permanent damage. Wire transfer of $5,000 upon completion. My first thought was, she was having an affair. I wish that's all it was. I clicked on the sender's profile. Dr. Gregory Ashford, a prominent surgeon. The email signature included something that made no sense. Member since 2019. Tier 3 access. My hands moved on their own, searching her inbox. Dozens of similar emails, different names, all successful men. Doctors, lawyers, CEOs. Always the same format. Confirmations, rules, wire transfers ranging from $3,000 to $15,000. Then I found the folder labeled Contracts. Each PDF was a detailed agreement, not for financial consulting. The terms were specific and horrifying. What these men were paying Veronica to let them do to her. I read words like impact play, controlled suffocation, consensual non-consent scenarios. My stomach churned as I realized the woman I was about to marry had been selling something I couldn't even process. I kept digging, even though every instinct screamed at me to stop. Her browsing history revealed a hidden website called Executive Experiences. It required a password, but she'd saved it. When I logged in, I found her profile. The photos were professional but shadowed, hiding her face while displaying her body in ways I'd never seen. Her bio described her as sophisticated, discreet, and experienced in fulfilling executive needs. There were reviews, 5 stars, dozens of them. Men describing in detail what they'd done with my fiancé, rating her like she was a restaurant. One review from last week, while I was visiting my parents, described a 3-hour session that made me run to the bathroom to vomit. The shower stopped. I heard Veronica humming our wedding song, the one we'd picked for our first dance. I quickly closed everything and opened the weather forecast, my heart hammering against my ribs. She walked out in a towel, smiled at me, and kissed my cheek. "Working late again tonight, baby," she said. "Big client meeting, should be home by midnight." I nodded, unable to speak. She got dressed in a black cocktail dress I'd complimented her on before. Now I understood why she had so many. She kissed me goodbye, told me she loved me, and left for her meeting. I waited 5 minutes, then followed her. She drove across town to a hotel I recognized, the Ritz-Carlton. I watched her walk through the lobby like she owned the place. The concierge nodded at her. They knew her. I sat in my car for 2 hours, refreshing her profile on that website. She'd updated her status. In session. Unavailable. When she finally emerged, she wasn't alone. The man with her had his arm around her waist, whispering something that made her laugh. I recognized him immediately. It was my father. The world tilted. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, watching my father, the man who'd raised me, who'd given the toast at our engagement party, who'd offered to pay for our honeymoon, escort my fiancé to his Mercedes. He opened the door for her like a gentleman. She kissed him on the cheek before getting in. They drove away, and I followed, keeping 3 cars between us. They didn't go far, just to an upscale restaurant I knew my father frequented for business dinners. Through the window, I watched them sit at a corner booth. My father ordered wine. They looked comfortable together, familiar. This wasn't their first meeting. My phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. "Meeting's running long. Don't wait up. Love you." I sat there for another hour, watching them eat and talk. My father kept touching her hand across the table. She laughed at his jokes, the same ones I'd heard 1,000 times. When they finally left, he handed the valet his ticket, and I heard him tell Veronica, "Same time next week?" She nodded. I drove home in a daze. Our apartment felt like a crime scene. Everything looked different now. The expensive furniture she picked out, the designer clothes in her closet, the jewelry I'd never questioned, all paid for with money earned from men like my father. I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, diving deeper into Veronica's secret life. Her profile on Executive Experiences had been active for 4 years, 2 years before we'd even met. She'd been doing this the entire time we'd been together. The website had a forum where clients discussed the providers. I found a thread about Veronica, 63 replies, men trading notes about what she would and wouldn't do, her rates, her specialties. One user named DocGolf72 had posted just yesterday, "Worth every penny, accommodating to special requests. Highly recommend for those seeking the girlfriend experience with professional boundaries." The timestamp was 11:47 p.m. Veronica had gotten home at 11:55, slipping into bed beside me smelling like expensive cologne I now recognized as my father's brand. I found her second email account, the one she used for this business. Hundreds of exchanges, scheduling, negotiations. Some clients she'd been seeing for years. 3 of them were invited to our wedding. My uncle Richard, my dad's business partner Frank, my boss Dennis. The puzzle pieces started fitting together in nauseating ways. How Veronica always knew exactly what to say at family gatherings, how she'd gotten me the promotion at work, how comfortable she seemed around men who should have been strangers. At 3 a.m., Veronica came home. I pretended to be asleep as she showered, longer than usual. She slipped into bed, pressing her cold feet against my legs like she always did. I lay there rigid, fighting the urge to confront her. "You awake, baby?" she whispered. I didn't answer. She kissed my shoulder and fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. The next morning, Veronica made breakfast like nothing had happened. Eggs over easy, wheat toast, fresh squeezed orange juice. She hummed while she cooked, occasionally touching my arm as she moved around the kitchen. Every gesture felt like a performance now. "Don't forget, we have the cake tasting at 2, she said, setting a plate in front of me. "The wedding cake. Our wedding cake. In 13 days. I might have to work," I lied. She frowned. "Brian, you promised. We've already rescheduled twice." Brian. My name sounded foreign in her mouth. How many men's names did she say in a day? "I'll try to make it," I said. She studied my face. "You okay? You seem off. Just stressed about work. Maybe you need a vacation," she said, then laughed. "Good thing we have Bora Bora coming up. Our honeymoon. 2 weeks in paradise. Already paid for. By her. With money from..." I stood abruptly. "I need to go. Brian, I'll text you about the cake tasting." I left before she could respond. I drove to my best friend Kevin's apartment. He answered the door in boxers, squinting at me. "Dude, it's 7 a.m. I need to talk." Something in my voice made him step aside. I sat on his couch and told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from confusion to horror to rage. "Your dad?" he finally said. "Your fucking dad?" I nodded. "We need to call off the wedding. It's in 2 weeks. 400 guests. Deposits we can't get back." "Who gives a shit about deposits? Brian, she's been..." He couldn't even finish the sentence. "I know what she's been doing, and your dad knows you're marrying her. He's known this whole time, and he's still..." Kevin stood up, pacing. "This is sick. This is beyond sick." My phone rang. "Veronica, don't answer it," Kevin said. But I did. "Where are you?" Her voice was worried. "Kevin's. Is everything okay? You left so suddenly?" "Yeah, just needed to talk about best man stuff." Kevin stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Oh," Veronica said, relief evident. "Well, don't forget the cake tasting. It's the last appointment they had available before the wedding. I'll be there." I hung up. "What are you doing?" Kevin demanded. "I need proof." "Proof? You have her emails, her website profile. I need video, audio, something undeniable." "For what? You're not seriously thinking about..." "I need to know how deep this goes. How many people in my life are involved?" Kevin sat down beside me. "This is dangerous, man. Just leave. Pack your stuff and go." "I can't. Not yet." "Why?" I thought about the family reunion last summer. How my father had introduced Veronica to everyone, his hand on her lower back. How my Uncle Richard had hugged her a little too long. How many family gatherings had been contaminated by this secret. "Because they all knew," I said. "They all knew what she was, and they let me propose to her anyway." The cake tasting was at an upscale bakery downtown. Veronica was already there when I arrived, chatting with the baker about fondant versus buttercream. She lit up when she saw me. "You made it!" She kissed me, and I forced myself not to pull away. We sat at a small table while the baker brought out sample after sample. Vanilla with raspberry filling, chocolate with salted caramel, lemon with lavender cream. "What do you think of this one?" Veronica asked, feeding me a bite of red velvet. "It's fine." She frowned. "You love red velvet." I said it's fine. The baker excused herself, sensing tension. "Brian, what's wrong?" Veronica reached for my hand. "You've been weird all day." I stared at her engagement ring. 3 carats, platinum band. I'd saved for a year to buy it. Now I wondered if she'd actually paid for it herself with money from her clients. "Just work stress," I repeated. "You keep saying that, but..." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression shifted. "I'm sorry. I need to take this." She stepped outside. Through the window, I watched her pace while talking, her free hand gesturing animatedly. When she returned, she looked flustered. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Client emergency. I might need to work tonight." "On a Saturday?" "High net worth clients don't care about weekends." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Where were we?" "Right, the cake. We picked the chocolate with salted caramel." The baker congratulated us, said we made a beautiful couple. Veronica squeezed my hand and agreed. I wanted to scream. That evening, Veronica got ready for her client emergency. I watched her apply makeup with precision, each stroke deliberate. "I shouldn't be too late," she said, zipping up a navy dress. "Midnight at the latest." "Which client?" She paused. "The Morrison account." "Why?" "Just wondering." She kissed my forehead. "Don't wait up." After she left, I checked her profile on executive experiences. She'd blocked out 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., 5 hours. At her rates, that was at least $8,000. I grabbed my laptop and the USB recording device I'd bought that afternoon. Kevin thought I was crazy, but I needed evidence. Not for court, for my family. They needed to know what my father had done, what they'd all done. I drove to the Ritz-Carlton and waited. Veronica arrived at 7:45, earlier than her appointment. She went straight to the elevator. I followed, keeping my distance. She got off on the 12th floor. I took the stairs, reaching the floor as she disappeared into room 1247. I stood in the hallway, uncertain. What was I doing? What did I expect to accomplish? Then I heard familiar voices through the door. Not just one man, multiple. I pressed the recording device against the door and activated it. The voices became clearer. "Told you she was worth it?" my father's voice said. "Worth every penny," another voice agreed. "Uncle Richard." "Brian's a lucky man," a third voice added. "Frank, my dad's business partner." They laughed. "Does he have any idea?" Frank asked. "None," my father said. "Kid thinks she's a financial consultant." More laughter. "You're still going to the wedding?" Richard asked. "Of course. I'm giving the father of the groom speech." "That's cold. Even for you, William." "William." My father's name had never sounded so poisonous. "It's business," my father said. "She provides a service, I pay for it. What Brian doesn't know won't hurt him until he finds out, Frank said. He won't. Veronica's too smart for that. She's got him completely fooled. The conversation shifted to things I couldn't unhear. Details about what they were planning for the evening, what they'd done before, what Veronica would let them do for the right price. I stood there for 20 minutes recording everything. My father discussing my fiancée like she was a rental car. My uncle negotiating for extra time. Frank asking if she'd ever considered expanding her services. When I couldn't take anymore, I went back to my car and vomited in the parking garage. Then I called Kevin. I got it, I said. Got what? Everything. My father, my uncle, Frank, they're all there. All three of them with her. Jesus Christ, what are you going to do? I don't know. Come over. We'll figure it out. I drove to Kevin's apartment in a haze. He made me drink whiskey while I transferred the audio file to my laptop. We listened to it once, then he deleted it from the recorder and made multiple backup copies. You need to confront them, he said. At the wedding. What? No, Brian, you need to. 400 guests. All our family, friends, co-workers, everyone who matters will be there. You want to blow this up in front of everyone? They humiliated me. All of them. They knew what she was and watched me fall in love with her anyway. Watched me propose. Watched me plan a life with her. Kevin was quiet for a moment. This could destroy your whole family. They already destroyed it. We spent the next 3 hours planning. Kevin would control the audio-visual system at the reception. He was already in charge of the slideshow. Instead of photos of Veronica and me, we'd play the audio recording, right after my father's speech. You sure about this? Kevin asked. No, but I'm doing it anyway. I went home at 2 a.m. Veronica was already in bed, sleeping peacefully. I stood in the doorway, watching her breathe. She looked innocent in sleep, vulnerable. Nothing like the woman who just spent 5 hours with my father, uncle, and Frank. I slept on the couch. The next morning, Veronica found me there. Why didn't you come to bed? Fell asleep watching TV. She sat beside me, running her fingers through my hair. You've been so distant lately. Are you getting cold feet about the wedding? The irony almost made me laugh. No cold feet. Good. Because I love you, Brian. More than you know. She kissed me softly, and I tasted mouthwash and lies. The next 12 days passed in a blur of final wedding preparations, dress fittings, rehearsal dinner planning, seating chart adjustments. I went through the motions, signing checks, making decisions, pretending everything was normal. Veronica grew increasingly concerned about my behavior. You're not yourself, she said one evening over dinner. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. Is it work? Your family? Are you sick? I'm fine, Veronica. She set down her fork. You haven't touched me in a week. It was true. I couldn't bring myself to be intimate with her, knowing where she'd been, who she'd been with. I'm just stressed about the wedding. The wedding you said you weren't having cold feet about? It's a lot of pressure. Everything has to be perfect. She reached across the table for my hand. I let her take it. It doesn't have to be perfect, she said. It just has to be us. Us. There was no us. There never had been. You're right, I lied. That night she tried to initiate sex. I pretended to be asleep. She eventually gave up, rolling away from me with a frustrated sigh. 3 days before the wedding, my father called. Haven't heard from you in a while, he said. Been busy. How's Veronica? Ready for the big day? The casual way he said her name made my skin crawl. She's fine. Good, good. Your mother and I are looking forward to the wedding. It's going to be beautiful. My mother. God, my mother. Did she know? How could she not know? Brian, you there? Yeah, I'm here. You sound stressed, son. Everything okay? Son. He called me son while paying to fuck my fiancée. Everything's perfect, Dad. Good. Hey, I'm working on my speech. Any topics I should avoid? Don't want to embarrass you. Just be yourself. He laughed. Will do. Love you, son. Yeah. I hung up before he could respond. The rehearsal dinner was at an Italian restaurant downtown. 50 of our closest family and friends gathered to celebrate our impending union. I sat at the head table, Veronica beside me, watching my father charm the room with stories about my childhood. Brian was always the romantic, he said, raising his glass. Even in kindergarten, he'd pick flowers for girls he liked. I knew someday he'd find someone special, everyone awed. Veronica squeezed my hand. And when he introduced us to Veronica, my father continued, making eye contact with her, we knew she was the one. She's everything we could have hoped for in a daughter-in-law. My Uncle Richard raised his glass. To Brian and Veronica. To Brian and Veronica, everyone echoed. I drank my champagne and imagined their faces when they heard the recording. Frank stood next. I've known Brian since he was born, and I've never seen him happier than he is with Veronica. She brings out the best in him. Did she bring out the best in you too, Frank? I wondered. Last Thursday, in room 1247, the speeches continued. Friends from college, co-workers, cousins, all celebrating a relationship built on deception. Veronica cried during her sister's speech, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. You okay? I whispered. Just happy, she whispered back. At the end of the dinner, Veronica stood to speak. She hadn't told me she was planning to. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here, she began, her voice slightly shaky. Especially to Brian's family for welcoming me so warmly. She looked at my father, who smiled back. William and Patricia, you've been like second parents to me. William especially has been so supportive of my career, always offering advice and connections. I bet he has. And Brian, she turned to me, tears flowing now. You've shown me what real love looks like. Before you, I didn't think I deserved someone like you. Someone kind and honest and true. You've never judged me, never made me feel less than. You've loved me exactly as I am, and that's the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. The room was silent except for sniffles. Even Kevin looked moved, though he knew the truth. I can't wait to be your wife, she finished, leaning down to kiss me. Everyone applauded. I kissed her back, tasting salt from her tears, and wondered if anything she just said was real. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I stood on our balcony, looking out at the city lights, when Veronica joined me. Can't sleep either? She asked, just thinking. About what? Tomorrow. Everything changing. She wrapped her arms around me from behind. Are you happy? Are you? The happiest I've ever been. Veronica, is there anything you want to tell me? Before tomorrow? She tensed slightly. What do you mean? Any secrets? Things I should know? She was quiet for a long moment. We all have pasts, Brian. That's not an answer. She moved to face me. Do you have something you want to ask me? This was it. The moment I could confront her. Call off the wedding. Save us both from tomorrow's disaster. No, I said. Nothing. She studied my face, then nodded. I love you, Brian Douglas. I know. She went back inside. I stayed on the balcony until sunrise. The wedding day arrived gray and humid, threatening rain. Pathetic fallacy, my English teacher would have called it. Nature reflecting the mood. I got ready at Kevin's apartment. He kept asking if I was sure, if I wanted to go through with the plan. It's not too late to just leave, he said, adjusting my bow tie. Just walk away from all of it. They need to know what they did. And then what? After you destroy your entire family, then what? Then I start over. Brian, the recording is ready? He sighed. Yeah, it's loaded. All I have to do is press play. After my father's speech. After your father's speech. We drove to the church in silence. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 p.m. I stood at the altar watching guests file in. My mother in the front row, crying already. My father beside her, checking his speech cards. Uncle Richard and his wife, Frank and his new girlfriend, 20 years younger, probably had no idea. The music changed and the bridesmaids began their procession. Then the music shifted to the wedding march, and everyone stood. Veronica appeared at the end of the aisle, radiant in white lace. Her father walked her down, a kind man who ran a hardware store and had no idea what his daughter did for a living. She smiled at me through her veil, and for a moment I forgot everything. She was just the woman I'd fallen in love with at a coffee shop 2 years ago. But then I saw my father watching her, a look in his eyes that no father-in-law should have, and I remembered everything. Dearly beloved, the minister began. The ceremony was a blur. I repeated vows I didn't mean, promised things I'd never deliver, slipped a ring onto the finger of a woman I no longer knew. You may kiss the bride. I lifted her veil and kissed her while everyone applauded. She whispered against my lips, I love you. The reception was at a country club overlooking a golf course. 400 guests cocktailing while we took photos. Veronica glowing, me dying inside with each flash of the camera. Smile, Brian, the photographer kept saying. It's your wedding day. Dinner was served. Filet mignon or salmon. That chocolate cake we'd chosen together. Then the speeches began. Veronica's father went first, talking about his little girl growing up, how proud he was, how he knew I'd take care of her. If only he knew how she took care of herself. My best man speech was next. Kevin kept it short, generic. He couldn't look at Veronica. Then my father stood, tapping his champagne glass. When Brian was young, he began, I taught him that the measure of a man isn't what he has, but what he does. How he treats people. The choices he makes when no one is watching. The irony was suffocating. Today, watching him marry Veronica, I see a man who has made excellent choices, who has chosen a partner worthy of the Douglas name. Worthy. There was that word again. Veronica. He turned to her. You've brought such light into our family. Such joy. I couldn't have chosen a better wife for my son if I'd picked her myself, but you did pick her, Dad. Every Thursday night at the Ritz-Carlton. And so, he raised his glass, to Brian and Veronica. May your marriage be filled with honesty, trust, and love. To Brian and Veronica, the room echoed. This was the moment. I looked at Kevin. He had his hand on his phone ready to trigger the audio system. I stood up. Thank you, Dad. That was beautiful. I took the microphone. I also want to say something. Veronica smiled up at me, tears already forming. These last 2 years with Veronica have been educational, I began. I've learned so much about trust, about honesty, about the people closest to me. My father nodded approvingly. I've learned that sometimes the people you love the most are capable of the greatest betrayals. The room grew quiet. Veronica's smile faltered. I've learned that family, blood family, doesn't always have your best interest at heart. My mother looked confused. My father's expression hardened. And I've learned that when you're about to marry someone, you should probably Google them. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Or at least check their laptop when they leave it open. Veronica went pale. Kevin, I said, play it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then my father's voice filled the room from the speakers. She provides a service, I pay for it. What Brian doesn't know won't hurt him. Gasps, chairs scraping. My mother's voice, William? The recording continued. Every damning word. My father, uncle, and Frank discussing my fiancé like property, negotiating prices, describing acts. Veronica stood, her bouquet falling to the floor. Brian, please, did you think I'd never find out? I asked into the microphone, my voice echoing through the silent room. Did all of you think I was that stupid? My father pushed through the crowd toward me. Turn it off! Why, Dad? Embarrassed? You weren't embarrassed last Thursday in room 1247. My mother collapsed into her chair. Uncle Richard was trying to leave, but his wife had grabbed his arm, her face twisted in rage. Brian, stop! Veronica pleaded. I can explain. Explain what? The website? The 63 reviews? The fact that you've been fucking my father since before we got engaged? More gasps. Someone, I think it was Veronica's mother, screamed. It wasn't like that, Veronica said, tears streaming down her face. I love you. That's real. The rest was just business. I laughed bitterly. Just business? Like Frank said? Frank's girlfriend slapped him and stormed out. You all knew, I said, addressing the room now. How many of you knew what she was? How many of you hired her? Dead silence except for the still playing recording. My father's voice describing what he wanted to do to Veronica, what he'd already done. Dennis, my boss, quietly stood and left. 3 other men followed. That's what I thought, I said. Veronica grabbed my arm. Brian, please, let me explain. It started before us. I tried to stop, but the money, your father threatened. My father threatened you? She nodded frantically. He said if I didn't keep seeing him, he'd tell you everything. He said he'd ruin us. I looked at my father. He couldn't meet my eyes. Is that true? I asked him. He said nothing. Is that true? I shouted. You don't understand, he finally said. It's complicated. Complicated? You were fucking my fiancée and threatened her to keep doing it. What's complicated about that? My mother stood, walked over to my father, and slapped him so hard the sound echoed even over the recording. Then she left. The recording finally ended. The room was chaos. People leaving, arguing, crying. Veronica's father was being held back by two groomsmen as he tried to get to my father. You ruined everything, Veronica whispered. This didn't have to happen like this. You're right, I said. It didn't have to happen at all. You could have told me the truth. Any time in the last 2 years, you could have been honest. Would you have loved me if you knew? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, but at least it would have been my choice. I set down the microphone and walked out, leaving 390-something guests, a sobbing bride, and my destroyed family behind. Kevin found me in the parking lot. That was brutal, he said. It had to be. What now? Now I disappear for a while. Where will you go? I don't know. Anywhere but here. He hugged me. I'm sorry, man, about all of it. Me too. I got in my car, already packed with everything I owned that mattered. As I drove away, I saw Veronica running out of the country club in her wedding dress, her makeup destroyed, calling my name. I didn't stop. 3 months later, I was living in Portland under a sublease, working construction and trying to forget, when I got a call from an unknown number. Brian, it was my mother. Hi, Mom. I've been trying to find you. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You have nothing to apologize for. We were quiet for a moment. I filed for divorce, she said. Good. And I'm suing William for emotional distress. My lawyer says I have a strong case, especially with that recording. William. Not your father. Not my husband. William. How's everyone else? Richard's wife left him. Took the kids. Frank's company severed ties with William's firm. The whole thing was in the business journals. And Veronica? A pause. You don't know? Know what? She's pregnant. The world tilted again. What? About 4 months along. So she was pregnant at the wedding. 4 months. I did the math. It could be mine, or my father's, or anyone's. She's been trying to contact you, Mom continued. Says she needs to talk to you about the baby. Don't give her my number. I won't. But Brian, what if it's yours? Then I'll deal with it when there's a paternity test. Not before. She's keeping it. Move back in with her parents. Good for her. Brian, Mom, I can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I understand. We talked for a few more minutes. She updated me on family members who'd reached out, supporting me. Apparently the recording had spread beyond the wedding, and Veronica's business had been exposed. The website shut down. Several prominent men in our city were caught up in the scandal. You did the right thing, Mom said before hanging up. It was horrible, but it was right. Was it though? I'd destroyed dozens of lives in a single evening. Ruined relationships, ended marriages, devastated families. All for what? Revenge? 6 months after the wedding, I got a letter forwarded from Kevin. Veronica's handwriting. Brian, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know some things. First, the baby is yours. I haven't been with anyone else since a month before the wedding. I know you don't believe me, but I have proof. I stopped taking clients when I realized I was pregnant. I was going to tell you after the honeymoon and quit everything. I know it doesn't matter now, but I needed you to know. Second, your father lied to me too. He told me you knew about my work and were okay with it, that you had an arrangement. I didn't find out the truth until we'd been together 6 months, and by then, I was in love with you. I tried to stop, but he did threaten me. He said he'd destroy both of us if I didn't continue seeing him. Third, and this is the hardest part, I loved you. I still love you. Not the life you could give me or the money or the security. You. You were the only real thing in my fake life, the only person who saw me as more than what I could do for them. Even if you didn't really know me, you loved the parts that were true. The parts I'd forgotten existed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. I just wanted you to know that it wasn't all a lie. The baby and I are okay. My parents are helping. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I made the choices I did. Why I thought I deserved that life. Why I didn't think I deserved you. I hope you find someone who doesn't lie to you, who doesn't have secrets that destroy everything, who can love you the way you deserve to be loved, honestly and completely. Forever sorry, Veronica. I read the letter 3 times, then burned it. A month later, Kevin called. You need to know something, he said. I don't want to know anything. Your father's in the hospital. I was quiet. Heart attack. It's bad. So he's asking for you. He can keep asking. Brian, he fucked my fiancée, Kevin, repeatedly for money. I know. Then you know why I'm not coming. Your mom thinks you should. For closure. Tell my mom I'll think about it. I didn't think about it. I went to work, came home, had a beer, went to bed. Same routine I'd followed for 7 months. 3 days later, Kevin called again. He died. I felt nothing. Then everything. Then nothing again. When's the funeral? Saturday. I'm not going. I know. But I went. Sat in the back row of the church, watching my mother grieve a man who'd betrayed her in the worst possible way. Uncle Richard was there. Alone. Frank too. They avoided each other. Veronica wasn't there, thank God. But her presence haunted the room anyway. The elephant no one acknowledged. During the eulogy, the minister talked about my father's commitment to family, his strong moral compass, his dedication to truth. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in the middle of the funeral. People turned to stare. My mother saw me and nodded slightly, understanding. I left before the burial. 2 years passed. I stayed in Portland, started my own construction company. Small, but profitable. I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. How do you trust after something like that? Then one day, I was at a coffee shop when a woman walked in with a toddler. The child had my father's eyes. My eyes. It was Veronica. She saw me and froze. The toddler, a boy, tugged on her hand, pointing at the pastry display. "Mama, cookie!" She looked older, tired, her designer clothes replaced with jeans and a Portland State University sweatshirt. "Brian," she said. I stood to leave. "Wait, please." I stopped, but didn't turn around. "This is Thomas," she said. "Your son." I turned then. The boy was watching me with curious eyes. Definitely my eyes. "You don't have to do anything," she said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything, I just thought you should see him." Thomas toddled over to me, holding up a toy car. "Vroom?" I knelt down. "Yeah, buddy. Vroom." He smiled. My mother's smile. "He looks like you," Veronica said softly. "He looks like my father." She flinched. "I'm sorry for everything. I know. I'm in school now, social work, trying to help women get out of the life. Good for you. Brian, I can't do this." I stood up. Thomas protested, reaching for his toy car I'd been holding. "Here you go, buddy." "We're here every Tuesday and Thursday morning," Veronica said. "Same time. If you ever..." I left without responding. But the next Tuesday, I was there, sitting in the corner, watching them. Thomas was energetic, curious, loud, everything a 2-year-old should be. Veronica was patient with him, loving. She looked like an actual mother, not the woman I'd known. This became my routine. Tuesdays and Thursdays, watching from afar. Never approaching, never talking. Just watching my son grow up from a distance. One Thursday, Thomas escaped from Veronica and ran straight to my table. "Hi," he said, grinning. "Hi, you're the car man." He remembered me from weeks ago. Smart kid. Veronica hurried over. "Thomas, come here." "It's okay," I said. She sat down carefully. "You've been coming. Just for coffee." "Brian, is he healthy?" "Yes." "Happy?" "Yes." "Good." Thomas climbed into my lap without invitation. I tensed but didn't push him away. "He doesn't know," Veronica said. "About you." I didn't know what to tell him. Tell him his father died. That's not... It's easier than the truth. Thomas was playing with my car keys, making engine noises. "The truth is his father loved him before he was born," Veronica said. "Loved him enough to walk away rather than raise him in anger and resentment. Don't romanticize it." "I'm not. I'm just saying, you're here. That means something. I'm here for him, not you." "I know." Thomas fell asleep in my lap. I hadn't moved, afraid to wake him. Veronica watched us with tears in her eyes. "He needs a father," she said. "He needs a better father than I can be." "You're wrong." "Am I? I destroyed our entire families in one night. That's not something a good person does. They destroyed themselves. You just exposed it. Same result." "Brian, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't forgive myself. But don't punish Thomas for my mistakes." Thomas stirred, mumbling in his sleep. I instinctively rubbed his back, the way my mother used to do for me. "I'll think about it," I said. It took another 6 months before I could do more than watch. Before I could sit with them, talk to Thomas, be present instead of just observing. Veronica never pushed. She let me set the pace, the boundaries. We didn't talk about the past, only the present. Thomas's favorite foods, his fear of dogs, his obsession with trains. On his 3rd birthday, I brought a present. A wooden train set I'd built myself. "For me?" Thomas asked, eyes wide. "Yeah, buddy, for you." He hugged me, the first time, and I broke. 3 years of anger and hurt cracked open, and I sobbed while holding my son. Veronica didn't say anything, just let me have the moment. After that, I became part of Thomas's life officially. Not as his father, not yet, but as Brian, Mama's friend who brought cool toys and taught him to build things. We worked out a schedule, weekends at the park, Wednesday dinners, swimming lessons on Saturdays. Slowly, carefully, we built something resembling a family. Not traditional, not perfect, but functional. Veronica graduated with her social work degree, got a job at a women's shelter, started rebuilding her life legitimately. She dated once, told me about it beforehand, asked if I was okay with Thomas meeting him. The relationship didn't last, but I appreciated the consideration. 5 years after the wedding that wasn't, I was teaching Thomas to ride a bike in the park when he fell and scraped his knee. "Daddy, it hurts!" he cried, reaching for me. Daddy. He'd never called me that before. I looked at Veronica, who was as surprised as I was. "It's okay," I told Thomas, cleaning the wound. "Daddy's got you." That night, after Thomas was asleep, Veronica and I sat on her apartment's fire escape, sharing a bottle of wine. The first time we'd been alone together in years. "He loves you," she said. "I love him too." "I know." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. "I never stopped loving you," she said quietly. "I know it doesn't matter, but..." "You're right, it doesn't matter. But you're here. You're in his life. That matters. I'm here for Thomas." "I know. Only for Thomas," she nodded, taking another sip of wine. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd told me the truth from the beginning?" I asked. "Every day. And? I think you would have run. I think I would have lost you immediately instead of slowly. Maybe. Or maybe you would have tried to save me, fix me, and I would have resented you for it. Maybe. Or maybe," she said, "we would have found a way to make it work, but we'll never know." "No, we won't." "Brian? Yeah? Thank you, for Thomas. For not completely cutting us off. He's my son. He didn't ask for any of this. Neither did you." "No, I didn't." More silence. Then she asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I thought about it for a long time. "I forgive the woman you are now," I finally said. "The mother, the social worker, the person trying to be better. But the woman you were then, the one who lied to me every day for 2 years? No, I'll never forgive her." She nodded. "That's fair, is it? It's more than I deserve." We finished the wine and I left, kissing Thomas's forehead as he slept. 2 more years passed. Thomas started kindergarten. I was there for his first day, camera in hand like every other parent. Veronica and I had fallen into an easy co-parenting rhythm. We weren't friends exactly, but we weren't enemies either. We were just two people bound together by a child we both loved. My mother had moved to Portland to be closer to her grandson. Time to move on, Brian. Find someone. Be happy. I am happy. No, you're content. There's a difference. She was right, but I didn't know how to change it. Frozen in that moment at the altar. I've moved on. I have my son, my business. You've moved forward. That's not the same as moving on. What's the difference? Moving forward is mechanical, to a fault. She knew my history. Everyone in Portland's construction community did, and she didn't care. Everyone has baggage, she said on our third date. She said one day when I was picking Thomas up. How would you know? You smile different. I smile different? Like you mean it now. Amanda and I got married 2 years later. He was going to be a big brother. He immediately asked if the baby could live at his mom's house too. That's not how it works, buddy, I explained. But I have 2 houses. The baby should too. Kids logic. I'm the best big brother, he announced to anyone who would listen. Veronica sent flowers and a stuffed elephant. The card just said, she's beautiful. Thomas started asking harder questions as he got older. Evening. Maybe when he was older. Maybe never. Some truths don't need to be shared. When Grace turned 2, we threw a party in our backyard. It's fine. There's plenty of food if you want to stay. She looked surprised. In 8 years, I'd never invited her to stay for anything. I don't want to intrude. Mom, stay, Thomas said. By the end of the party, we were all laughing at Grace's cake-covered face, like some strange but functional modern family. Thank you, Veronica said as she was leaving, for letting me stay. Thomas wanted it. Box of old papers. Insurance, maybe. Or just inability to let go completely. I walked to the fire pit in our backyard and dropped it in, watching the plastic melt and the past turn to smoke. Differently. Amanda was quiet for a moment. Do you ever wonder what that life would have been like? No, because I know exactly what it would have been. Built on lies, full of secrets, ending in disaster. Or simple, or without pain, but it was honest. It was real. This life, I said, pulling Amanda closer, is the one I was supposed to have. Instead, I chose revenge. You chose truth. I chose violence. Emotional violence, but still violence. And if you hadn't, where would you be now? I thought about it. Maybe divorced. Or Amanda, Dr. Patel, even my mother. I'd been carrying that day like a weight for 10 years, defining myself by the worst thing I'd ever done instead of the life I'd built after. The destruction that led to reconstruction. But I didn't. Some things are better left unsaid. Instead, I took my family to the park, but I didn't. They'd figure it out or they wouldn't. They'd survive it or they wouldn't. All any of us can do is try to build something real from the rubble of our mistakes, assembled from the wreckage of spectacular failure, but mine. Honestly, truly mine. Dead from a heart attack possibly triggered by shame. My Uncle Richard, divorced and estranged from his children. Frank, bankrupted by scandal. Worth it. Grace is worth it. The life Amanda and I built on foundations of truth instead of lies, that's worth it. Higher, Daddy, Thomas shouted. My father's speech about honesty. The moment I decided to destroy everything rather than live a lie. I'd been getting married in 2 weeks, and I was totally screwed. Full lie. Daddy, watch this, Thomas called, jumping from the swing at its highest point. To build again. To push my children on swings in the same park where I'd once come to escape the rubble of my life. Yeah, I said, ruffling Thomas's hair. Just like me, but braver, I thought, fully. But you loved each other once, right? Amanda reached over and squeezed my hand. We thought we did, I said. But real love needs honesty, and we didn't have that. Sharing a beer and watching the stars. Do you think he'll hate us when he learns the whole truth? I asked. Maybe, for a while, but he'll understand eventually. How do you know? Because he's your son. Strange, beautiful life that can grow from scorched earth if you're brave enough to plant new seeds. Somewhere across the city, Veronica was probably putting Thomas's overnight bag together for school tomorrow. Just 2 people who'd failed spectacularly at loving each other, succeeding quietly at raising a son. Come to bed, Amanda said, standing and stretching. In a minute. That he'd find real love with someone who didn't know how to lie, but he wouldn't have believed me.